Hello everybody and welcome to another video in our tutorial machine learning. And in this video we are going to see exactly how we're going to use TensorFlow, and of course we're going to use it for something we already saw in our tutorial videos, which is linear regression. And yeah, I think the code is going to be provided also with as a material for the tutorial, so don't worry about that, and let's dive in the code. So first, the imports we're going to need is the TensorFlow framework. I told you in the beginning of the tutorial to install it. I hope you did. The NumPy library and matplotlib. It's like for plotting the figures, so I can show you exactly how things work, and it's gonna give you a great insight about the data. We are going to create some fake data. Like for this time, we're not going to use real data, but for R, in the video of R, we are going to use real data, so don't worry about that. Just like some points in a figure, like 300 points. We're gonna define the A and the B, like the initial A and B, and then we're gonna calculate a y for these random x's. So it's random x's and random y's. Just an example, so we can see how linear regression actually works under the TensorFlow framework. So our y is going to be a multiplied by x plus b. You remember here the a is kind of our w0 and the b is the bias I told you about. No, actually the b is the w0 and the a is w1. Anyway, we are going to learn all of these. This is just some configuration for our plotting. Like choose the backend, and not really important stuff for our course, but anyway, it's great if you know what's that. It's just like configuration for like the figure we're going to plot and show you. After plotting the fake data, we're going to pause 5 minutes so you can see how the fake data are actually going to be scattered all over the plot. And then here is like, from now we're going to see the most important things: creating placeholders. What are placeholders? Simply, a placeholder is like not actually creating variables, but it's just like a place, like an empty place for variables that we're going to use later in our code. So here we are creating place for the x's and place for the y's. So what's this? This is just a place for the labels, which are exactly these ones we are creating as fake data here. So yeah, so this is just labels, and this is the x's we're going to provide, and the y's also we are going to provide. So let's see how it works. Then we have to create the variables, as you remember them as w0 and w1, or w and b. We already studied in our videos. And you remember this is supposed to be function. So you remember the hypothesis function we told you about? We are going to use just simple linear hypothesis function. So x multiplied by y plus b, and this is going to be our y that I told you about here in the placeholders. And then you should know that in under TensorFlow framework, you should create a session. What's a session? It's kind of like a runtime that under that runtime you should run your TensorFlow operations. So now here we're going to initialize the variables. You see here the variables we created, tf dot variable and variable. We have two variables, the w and b, which are the parameters. they are not initialized yet. Yes, like we like created them, but we didn't give them any value. Even though here, like we give them like, you see tf dot random normal, so it's random normal value. I hope you are familiar with Gaussian distribution, or also called the normal distribution, and this is random uniform. So if you don't know that, it's just like we are initializing our variables. You remember like the 3D plot I showed you in the previous videos? Like I said, like you should start like from this side of the mountain or the other side of the mountain. So this is like choosing which side of the mountain, and it's totally random. So here we initialize them. So we actually gave them that values. Then the cost function, you remember J of W? So it's just like the average of the square of our W, which is here, like the hypothesis function, minus the label. So it's exactly as we saw in our previous videos. So if you like was focusing on our previous videos, you this is like really easy for you. If not, I hope you go back to the previous videos and watch them again. So now we are going to minimize the cost function. You remember what did we use? We used gradient descent. So in order to perform gradient descent, we also learned something called the learning rate, and minimize what? The J function, right? The cost function. So you're gonna say, but wait a minute, like what is the derivations and all this like complicated stuff? TensorFlow does all of that, so you don't need to worry about derivation and like changing each time the derivation value, and like all of this is under the TensorFlow framework, so it's really easy. Now, so in each iteration, we run the gradient descent and we get a new value for the parameters and plot the hypothesis function. Now we are going to like, this is for clearing the previous plot we had in the plot area, and here like putting the data, our data, and then each time like we put our data and then we run uh, the the optimizer, which is the gradient descent. We run like one time the gradient descent given the already given data we have, and again we give the value, the new values that we learned, the W and the B. So in a TensorFlow framework, if you want to like to iterate or have the new value after an iteration, you need to call the session dot run. You don't put directly like B and W as like just any variable. No, you need to call the session and use the function run. There is many other functions that we're not going to see this time, but maybe in next videos. So we run the new W multiplied by what? By the X and plus the B. So this is our hypothesis function, if you remember, but in this time, after updating our parameters. So if you remember our mountain example, we start from a random spot in our mountain, and then we like choose which way to go, and then we update the parameters, and then we plot. That means we like draw ourselves in like a different place in the mountain. It's supposed to be down like the mountain. So that's it. Let's run and check. My computer is okay. So this is the random values, the random data points we created. It's all random, so yeah, don't worry about that. And then here you might notice, you might think, oh, the random points are moving. It's not the random points are moving, it's our hypothesis function, which is this line, is moving. Each time we like change the parameters and we plot again, and the hypothesis function, which is this line, is changing to fit our data. Remember the word fit, it's called fitting the data. So our hypothesis function is fitting the data, as you see, slowly. And you see here, like our if you remember our the derivation of our j function or cost function is getting smaller and smaller. That's why it's like, and now it's totally fit to our data. So you see now that how linear regression is working, and you see that it's actually working, right? And we can use it for like real world data. We're gonna see that in R later, and maybe also we're gonna see in the MNIST dataset. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, maybe. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. The code is gonna be provided also with the videos, so don't worry about that. And see you next video.